Welcome to Triumph and Disaster, a show dedicated to manly creativity and culture. Brought to you by your host, Cameron McHarg.
Hey guys, it's Cameron McHarg. We're back for another episode of Triumph and Disaster. And this week I have an old friend of mine, actually, Daniel Freedman, who is one of the smartest guys I know. He's one of these guys that we would get together and maybe we'd have a beer or something, or even coffee or something, and just talk for hours. And I would just wish, I'd be like, shit, I wish we would have recorded this, because it was just so good. There's just so many crazy insights that he had about everything, books and movies and culture. Daniel's actually a successful comic book writer and colorist and screenwriter. He's one of the co-authors of Undying Love, and also one of the co-screenwriters, which that movie's actually being made by Warner Brothers. It's in the process of that. Can't say with who yet, but it's in the works. He's a pretty prolific writer, and he's done a lot of things, and I've actually acted in one of his films as well. I'll make sure to put it up. But I wanted to have him on the show, and I'm glad that I did. So, without further ado, Daniel Freedman. All right, we're on now. So you can keep eating your fries. We're at the House of Pies with Daniel Freedman.
Hello.
Who we've been friends for a long time now, actually. So we went to Art Center. It was like almost 10 years ago, I think. Something like that.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is hard to believe. Which is crazy.
Yeah, time flies.
But and you dropped out.
I dropped out after 1 year. I'd had enough.
And did well, though. So House of Pies, first of all, I didn't know that. So what did you say about this place? You said
so legend has it that this is where Tarantino wrote True Romance, and then recently I heard Charlie Kaufman wrote, I think, Being John Malkovich, but I could be wrong.
Did that here?
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know, so House of Pies looks exactly like a Tarantino cafe, like in Pulp Fiction or something. It still looks just like some
fairly
one
tacky.
of those old school LA diners.
Yeah, mediocre food.
Yeah, which I just
ate. Yeah.
And pies.
The pies
one
are
of those rotating refrigerator things.
They're not bad.
Cream pies.
Not good,
sorts.
but they're not bad.
Yeah.
They're not bad.
So, let's go for a second back to the Art Center days. So we were film students there, and just kind of latch on to a little small group of friends, and some of them have done well, like Hugo Stenson.
Yeah, Hugo's doing stuff.
And some people are doing some different things.
And then other people have just vanished from the face of the planet.
Yeah.
That's always interesting,
That's
too.
the majority,
I
think. Other people have done pretty well, though. And then there are people in different classes that have gone on to do well. Like
and I didn't know any of those people.
Saman and some of those guys. But you dropped out because you were working, which is like the whole point.
Yeah, I landed a job. I was 20, and that was, I started working from there.
You were editing at the time a lot, weren't you?
Yeah, not really, but I got a job editing.
You just did it.
I had used Final Cut.
Yeah.
I knew how to move things around on the timeline.
Yeah.
But I hadn't really, edited anything legitimate or beyond my own crap I was shooting at school.
Right.
But I met two guys, Tom Coker, one of them,
who has been on the show.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a really good episode, and we talk about you a little bit on that. So if anybody hasn't heard, if anybody is a fan of, we're going to get to the comic stuff, but if anybody's a fan of comic book art, Marvel stuff, whatever, check out the Tom Coker episode.
Check out the Tom Coker episode.
Go on with Tom, and who else was it?
David Elliott.
Okay.
And
who is of what fame?
Screenwriter. Screenwriter of films such as Four Brothers and G.I. Joe.
Okay.
And they had just gotten back from Romania, where they had shot a small horror film for Lionsgate, produced by the guys who made the Saw films, Twisted Pictures.
And at that time, when we were at Center, like, that was huge. That's when it was new.
Yeah, so this film that they were doing was supposed to be the first of the 7-picture deal that they got from Saw. And they were just starting post, and I basically told them, or just asked, really, I just said, if you guys ever need anything, I'd love to just help out because it was a real movie, and it
Yeah.
was the first time that was my first time being that close to a real, actual movie. And so I just wanted to be around and learn as much as I can. And they asked if I knew how to edit, and I said yes.
Just say yes
But you
to
always
everything.
just say yes.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, cool. Well, we need some help cutting some scenes. You're young and whatever, and understand MTV.
You're a kid.
Yeah, I'm a kid. So, and they had some dance
They didn't call
sequences.
them millennials back then, though.
No, we didn't.
I'm not
Millennials
sure if you
didn't
even
exist yet.
Yeah, you didn't. You don't
Yeah.
really. You don't really fall in that category, do you? What is
I'm
it?
on the
Generation
cusp.
Y?
I'm on the cusp. I don't personally identify
Yeah.
with the millennials, but I'm
You can still
I'm the
fit-
year they say in which
when
they
it started.
start.
Okay, all
which I think
Sorry
is-
about that.
I think it's off by a year or two personally. I think there's a very distinct cutoff point. I think it's 85 to 86 is the
Cuts
switch.
off.
Yeah.
So
Because
you
I
made the cut.
not to get too deterred, but I mean I still largely grew up with no technology.
Okay.
Certainly not. I didn't have an iPhone.
Didn't
until
grow
I
up with
was,
an iPhone. Yeah.
23 or something,
Yeah.
which is a little late. But
Yeah.
but that's the difference.
Okay.
You know, you get that early, and then you're done.
You're fucked.
You're
which
fucked.
which we'll talk about later. So you just
so
made
back
the
to
cut,
Catacombs.
but you were the young kid. So we want the young kid.
Yeah, and
editor.
I was
Yeah.
very excited, and I kept calling. I called him every week or two while we were still at school, just bugging him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the editing thing happened. Said, "Can I?" Said, "Sure." And then I went home that night, and it was a Friday. They said, "Come in Monday." And that weekend, I just
Studied the shit out
Googled
of
Final Cut tutorials and was like, "How do you edit? How does any of this shit work?" And came in Monday morning, threw up in the
Yeah.
bathroom.
Did you literally?
I literally did, both at my own home and where we were cutting. And then I just sat down and got to work, and then that was the most nerve-wracking 2 days of my life. Well, maybe worse, but was still very nerve-wracking. And they liked the scene and they gave me another one, and then I eventually came on board to be part of the editorial.
That's a big.
Yeah.
I really admire that. That's a big lesson there. You know what? Just real quick before we go on, we mentioned Hugo.
Yeah.
He did something and he's a very successful commercial director right now. And he got an opportunity to do a campaign for like Carlsbad or something for
The beer?
for like the sides of buses in Cape Town, South Africa or something. I don't know. It was something like that, or it was like during the World Cup or something. He was an assistant for a big director named Frederick Bond, another Swedish guy.
Right.
So he got that sort of through there. He got an offer to do this. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He had to use a Hasselblad, and he just said yes. And he had to just study the fuck out of this camera. He shows up with like the ad people behind him, and he's by himself, kind of adjusting lights. I can't imagine the stress, dude. But he did the campaign.
Yeah.
Made a pretty good amount of money, and then he did others as a result.
Right. I mean, I
and
don't
has
think he
a
had
career
any
now.
intention of being a photographer.
No,
Right.
but he
was
said
studying
yes,
directing.
and now he's quite successful.
Right.
So, but you did this too, and I think this is what, I mean, you have to do that. You have to jump on it.
Yeah.
And just kind of jump and kind of sew the net up on the way down.
Yeah. I mean, what is the saying? Feet first into the fire. Is that?
Well,
That's one of them.
Yeah. That's what you did.
But yeah.
So anyway,
I
you
think-
did that, and you turned out okay.
Yeah, because I don't. The opportunities aren't always where you want them to be, and so when you come by them,
Got to make it work.
yeah, I think you have to jump on them.
Yeah. Which takes a lot of balls, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, because I've certainly since then learned that they don't always come the way you want them to. So,
Even when you try to create them yourself.
right. Even when you try to create, it's like you can't force it. You just have to sort of get zen about it and then let them happen to you.
Yeah.
Which doesn't actually work because you actually have to be incredibly aggressive. But it's a weird, going both ways kind of thing.
So what happened with the whole Saw thing?
Unfortunately, over the weekends, one of the producers passed away, and his passing was the worst thing. So not to belittle that, but from there, everything that could go wrong on a movie went wrong. and some of it was creative, but a lot of it was just the business and the politics of the studio. And there was a regime change, and there was this and that, and a different marketing department head came in, and so it just sort of the movie got lost in the chaos of all kinds of things happening all at the same time, and we never got to really finish it. And so the version that it's out there that you could find is at best 30-40% of what was intended.
And what was
the movie? Was never color corrected or
what was it called?
Catacombs.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
By the way, so I was flipping through HBO Go the other night.
Yeah, it's on
and
there
it
now.
was there.
Yeah.
So this is Tom Coker directed it, right?
Yeah.
Which
him and David Elliott
in
together,
that episode too. We actually talked quite a bit about this.
Yeah, yeah.
And just like, and it's I understand it. I mean, I haven't gone through that exact experience, but I understand, like, there's so many things that can and usually do go wrong when you're trying to make a movie.
Or make anything.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Well, unless it's literally like you writing a novel or something,
that can go wrong too.
But it's just part of what you have to deal with. And but that led to your relationship with Tom.
Yeah. So Tom and I spent the better part of a year in an editing room, locked in there together, day after day, and luckily hit it off.
Yeah. No, he's a great dude.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy and a smart guy.
Yeah. And then I had written a little movie, and I asked Tom to read it, and he dug it, and asked if I wanted to develop something with him, and that was our first project together, and that was Undying Love.
Undying Love. So did you write? So again, Tom's a prolific comic book artist.
Yeah, Tom comes from the early Image days,
he's really
the 90s. He's got, I don't know how many years that's. What, 20, 30, 100 years?
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, he's been around for a long time, and
And so you started writing comics with him too, not just this movie. You would write. Am I wrong?
This is very complicated.
Okay. Say whatever you want to say about it, but you guys were making comics,
right?
And scripts.
So when we were developing our project. Tom was drawing for Marvel at the time, and in order for me to pay my bills while we were working, he got me hired as his colorist. And I have an art background, so that worked out. But so I started coloring all his Marvel work, and so we were doing Marvel work during the day, and then at night writing Undying Love as a screenplay. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it started as that. I actually thought it started as a comic.
We did it backwards or inside out. So we did that, and then when we were done with the script went out, and there was some interest, but nothing happened. And we, well, it was our baby. We had worked on it for a year and a half, I think, and we were really proud of it, and we didn't want to let it just die as a spec screenplay. That always seemed like the worst thing. You spend all this time working on a script, it goes out, and nothing happens, and that's it for your story. And that's really painful. So we said, fuck it, let's do it as a comic, because we can. Tom will draw it, and I'll color it, and the two of us will just create this thing whole cloth. And so we sat down for about 6 or 7 months, and knocked out the first half of the series. And then Image put that out.
Yeah, and it became pretty successful. You did the whole Comic-Con thing, and
the whole Comic-Con thing, did all the comic book conventions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, similarly to the editing, with comics, I sort of neither were originally intended, but they've both been incredibly good to me.
But yeah, I mean, at that time, especially, I mean, we all know that it's all comic book movies now. It's all Marvel, whatever, constantly. But at the time that you were doing this was kind of a new thing.
We were about a year or two ahead of the curve.
So you having this comic was like a big attraction for the studios or other people to make this movie.
Yeah, I mean, the Marvel stuff hadn't started yet.
Yeah.
I don't even know if this is 2010, 2011. The book came out in 2011. We were writing in 10. So I don't even I don't remember what was out then, but it may have been like, I mean, it was definitely pre-Marvel or any of the new DC stuff.
Yeah.
So the comic book movie hadn't really like become
The mainstay.
The mainstay. Yeah. But so we were a little ahead of the curve. But having what the comic did do was allow people to really understand and see what Tom and I were doing with the script, because there was so much of it was so visual, and not everyone has the ability to imagine things.
In the studio exec world, or?
I don't want to say too much.
It's okay,
but it's not always easy for people to understand more. It's not even that out there. It's just supernatural stuff. But there's a lot of like magic and all this kind of fun stuff.
It's a comic book.
It's a comic book.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just I mean,
well, come on.
I don't want to belittle the medium.
But you know what? But I'm saying that shit happens, and
that shit happens. The magic.
You got to accept.
Yeah, that shit happens.
Guys flying around in capes doesn't. It's a little on the magic side.
No capes, but
you know what I mean.
I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, anything goes if you create the world.
Yes. So where were we?
So the whole studio experience.
The studio experience.
The whole movie.
Right. So we. So what ended up happening was, once the comic hit the stands and people could see it, then people started calling about it, because they were interested in it originally as the comic they were looking at, and then once they found out there was already a script, you would think that would make things easy. You would, but it just actually confused the matter, because it's just not the normal, chain of events. You're right. Yeah. Normally there's a comic, they develop it, blah blah blah, but we had already done all that.
Hey,
work.
Here it is.
Yeah, so I mean, it ended up being great, and
you sold it.
We sold it. Yeah, Warner Brothers bought it, and I think because we had already written the script, that helped convince them to let Tom and I onto the lot, and not just take our comic book and do something else with it. So we were able to come in and do the development with the studio and the various directors that have been attached and are now
a decent list of recognizable names. Yeah.
I
know who some of them are.
Yeah,
and
some of them were public, some of them weren't. So I don't know who I don't remember.
Yeah,
but,
no, you don't have to say.
But
they're guys
we work
that
with a lot of
would know.
really exciting people.
Yeah.
It was, and then the movie almost got made 4 times, with 4 completely different kind of filmmaker packages, and it's been the most up and down thing, and we're still going.
It's still
going on year 5.
Yeah, and someone is working on it again.
We have a new
big guy,
a new big guy attached, which we're super excited about, and are rewriting the script for him now, and are gonna.
So you've had to rewrite every time, a million times.
I would say we've written close to upwards of almost maybe 30 drafts.
Yeah. How close is this complete, one to the first one? Let's say like percentage-wise.
Percentage-wise, the newest version, which will hopefully be the version, the ultimate version, I would say is still about 70% what it was from the very beginning. It's been a really interesting process to see how very small things can affect the story in huge ways.
I understand. I've been experiencing the similar thing.
Yeah, so it's not that each version is radically different, but each version
it sets into motion a whole domino effect that makes everything.
It's cute, and by the end of it, it seems like a bunch of little things here and there, but by the end of it, it's a completely different beast.
And this is common, right? This is actually very common.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've actually been blessed with an incredibly amazing development process, because you hear all the development hell stories, and so many scripts are just destroyed by the process.
Yeah, and souls.
Yeah,
yours was crushed a while ago, right? You don't have one left, I don't think, at this point.
At this point, it's pretty much crushed.
Yeah, it's minimal.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's which is
the light in your eyes is dimmed.
Yeah, to say the least. To say the least.
But it is soul crushing. It is soul crushing. I know because I'm your friend. I mean, I've seen the whole process.
Yeah.
And the ups and downs, and I know who some of these names are, and I know,
Yeah, there was really some
is.
really, really exciting.
But it's also
things that will, were my dream.
Yeah.
Was to always make. All I've wanted to do since I was a kid was just make an awesome big action movie.
And you're perpetually right on the edge of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like just taking a big kick to the sack every couple of months.
It's the you ride the waves.
Yeah.
Up and down.
The thing is too is like we both know this shit happens all the time and even worse, but that doesn't make you feel any better. You know, but it's like that doesn't make it easier.
No. I mean, it almost everyone else's stories of or experiences exist completely outside of your own.
Yeah.
Your own experiences you think is totally unique and separate, and it's not, but you think it is. So because it's happening to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And during this whole time you were continuously writing. You write just about every day, don't you?
Yeah.
Do you have a discipline like?
Yeah, I do. I mean, my goal is five pages minimum,
whatever it may be.
Hopefully 10, but yeah, 5 to 10 a day.
You do like about the same time? Do you do it in the mornings?
I'm a little all over the place.
Okay.
I'll usually like do one thing for a little while, for a few months, 2-3 months, maybe 6 months, and then switch it up.
Okay.
So
about 5 pages every day, no matter whether it's
good or bad. Just get it down.
You do that, so you have that discipline.
Yeah, I've gotten better at it in the past year or two, but and
I think that's really important, though. I think that's really important, even for your own sort of.
You definitely have to just sit down and do it.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends that are trying to write, and they just don't actually write.
Right. That's true of a lot of things, though. People, especially
there's a lot of talking, not a lot of walking.
Yeah.
So even if it's bad, you got to get it down, because if you don't get it down, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anything, you got nothing. What I mean? So,
and you've written a lot since then. So you're like, okay, while this thing is continuously like crushing me and killing me, continuously up and down, you've gone on and done. You've written, I don't know how many other full feature scripts.
Yeah, close to 10.
Really, that many?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. That's a workhorse. That's a lot of shit.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it sort of, if and hopefully when, if and when
you got shit
they
in
make
your back
this
pocket
movie, I'll be ready.
Right.
Because when we sold this script, we had meetings with everyone in town.
And they say, so what else do you got?
250 meetings, and we had every day meetings, and everyone said, what else do you have? And we didn't have anything.
Yeah.
We had that one thing we've been working on for 3 years.
Did you ever have one of those stories where you're pitching and the guy's like looking at his phone and eating a sandwich or something?
Well, we didn't pitch anything, because these were all, these are like general meetings. You go in and meet everybody, kind of feel each other out. And, we did ended up eventually pitching later on stuff, but, and yeah, I definitely have some of those stories.
That really happens, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking at the phone, you sort of are used to it these days. Everyone checks their phone. But what really hurts is when, as soon as you're done, they stand up and say thank you and walk out of the room. Because it's always weird that they stay there the whole time, and the way they get up tells you that they've wanted to.
Yeah,
they were nice enough to wait, which is almost, I would rather have not spent half an hour
it's brutal.
Struggling through a pitch, because pitching is really fucking hard. At least it is for me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
because
that hurts.
you were like the stereotypical like kind of writer genius type. You're like this really.
I don't know about the word genius.
Well, you're
run.
You're smart. Okay.
Yeah.
You're a smart, kind of introverted, very kind of self-aware dude.
Yeah, I'm weird. I guess.
Yeah. Fucking weirdo. No, but you know what I mean. But and there's a sensitivity in there too. And when you're a writer, you're spending a lot of time alone. You're kind of tend to be a little introverted and self-aware and creative. And that means you don't like to go in and have to do a fucking car salesman pitch in an office.
Yeah, and Tom was the same way. I mean, Tom whatever you wanted. Tom wanted to draw a picture of it. We didn't want to go in. And we did. We actually did a lot of artwork for various pitches, which was a huge mistake because this is totally pointless. Tom would spend hours working on artwork. We'd go in, we'd pitch, we'd say, here's all this art. And they would just, the look on their face was just to, like, glaze over.
Wow.
Because this was not, again, this was out of the norm to be presenting artwork.
Thank you.
A little more water. We're at the diner still. So.
Yeah, we're still at the House of Pies.
I'm sorry, I lost myself.
No, we're just talking about how, usually a personality of someone who is a good writer.
Oh, the introverted
weirdo
guy. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So Tom was also the same way, and so we ended, we tried to do everything we could except verbally pitch, which is what people want to hear. They want you to tell them what it is, not show them, which I thought you were supposed to show, don't tell. Yeah. But whatever.
It's just a lot of balls you have to juggle to get.
So at a certain point, we just said, "Fuck this! We're not going to do this anymore."
Okay.
And we just went back to writing specs because for us it was easier to just fully
get the whole thing
screenplay
done
than to pitch it.
Right.
Which does take a while to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's still that was your wheelhouse, not getting in the room and trying to sell it.
Yeah, I'm not I've gotten better at speaking to people, but other humans. But
when we have to.
Yeah. But definitely in the beginning, I mean, I was really, I didn't know anything. I was,
It's horrifying, man.
Everyone just, I don't know if we should take it as a compliment or not, but everyone just acted like we knew what we were doing. And we had no fucking idea what we were doing. This was our first script, and we totally had never been inside, the studio walls and these kinds of meetings and meeting the kind of people we were meeting. And we were just, I mean, I don't know, a little bit not in over our heads. We just didn't know how all this shit worked yet. Yeah. So it was
fucking horrifying.
It was definitely a learning. I mean, the selling of a screenplay and eventual rise and fall of the almost making the movie was incredibly educating, way more than any of the art schools or film school stuff. I mean, the thing about film school is they don't actually teach you how the business works, which is the only thing that they should be teaching you.
Yeah.
The rest of it is up to you. I mean, you can teach people, basic storytelling and composition and all these things, but really at the end of the day, they should be bringing that to the table, and what you should be learning in school is how to actually facilitate anything happening in your life. Because they tell you, teach you to make a couple little short films, which I feel should be a prerequisite.
But
to even being there,
for me, like even like my first one that I made, I learned more from that than I did from the entire school experience.
Right.
And by the way, we went to a really good school.
Yeah, one of the best.
It's been ranked like the number one design school in the world. Yeah.
Especially for car design.
So So I mean, it's not like we went to. I'm not going to say but we. So we're talking about a good school, and even there, it's just not possible to. It's all about doing it, really.
Yeah. Who's the famous alumni? Zack Snyder.
Tarsem. Michael Bay.
So
you get the idea for that.
That's the art center style.
There's been a lot of DPs I think that have come out of there that are really good.
Yeah.
But I mean anyway. But so during this whole process, you were writing all these other things, and you were trying to get your own shit done, and we made a short.
Yeah, we made a short. Yeah, you were in my first short since school.
Was that your very first one?
Since college, yeah. That was my first actual attempt at really directing.
You had I bet it was like a real composer on it. It was beautiful. It's like a post-apocalyptic short. I'll put it up.
You'll put it up.
It's called Frontier.
I got
to go to a couple theaters, and you had screened it.
It was in some
Westwood?
Festivals. Yeah, a couple little festivals in the city. It was a blast. I mean, it's still my favorite thing I've made to this day. I mean,
it was one day, crew of two.
Crew of two.
2 actors.
We shot it in like 6 hours.
In the Salton Sea.
Just drove out to the Salton Sea and made it work.
Yeah.
On a 7D. No sound, just went out and shot it, and then you'll see when you
Yeah,
post
I'll put it up.
see
I'll put it up.
And that's what we made.
People like it. I mean, I like it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I like it.
But you want to do more, and you're working on doing more right now, and this is like led to like what we're seeing on Vimeo lately.
Yeah, I was yeah.
And we were just talking about that before we started recording. I don't know what you're going to say about it, but like I know for me, a lot of what I'm guilty of not actually being up to date with a lot of the. I used to be pretty religious about checking out staff pics all the time and just seeing what was out there, but it's been a while since I've done that. But in years past, I found that there was a lot of really beautiful eye candy on there.
Yeah, there's some good-looking stuff.
There's beautiful stuff, and a lot of people that are learning, how to do their own effects, and then there's a lot of guys running around with guns and stuff, but is beautiful and is like really truly impressive. A lot of this stuff is. I find it boring as shit.
Yeah, I've heard that from a couple people. I on one level think something like Vimeo could be really awesome and could be sort
of course I'm not saying about everything,
right,
but a lot of the stuff that's out there.
But I kind of got into the Vimeo content, which is its own brand of content. The stuff you see on Vimeo you don't see on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the same, the other way. Vimeo is a place for people that they make stuff that they want to put up and be part of that kind of community.
Right. And
I don't think they've really succeeded at building the proper infrastructure to host that kind of community, but I like what it could be. Like last year or something, the guys who started it left, and it just seems to have wallowed.
Has it? I know that's true.
Yeah, but in theory, I think it's really interesting because it's a platform where you can see the sort of next wave of independent content. Where all the stuff that is on there, for the most part, or ideally, is stuff that is people try to actually make something. It's not a bunch of, cell phone recordings of horrible things happening in public places.
So, like 10 years ago, when this was kind of becoming a new thing, where like, hey, everybody can pick up a camera and make a movie. And people were saying that, and then YouTube, so. And the whole sort of democratization thing where everybody can do a camera, make a movie.
Yeah.
So people were talking about that and people were doing it. But now, as about 10 years or so later, you're getting kids, young people that really know technically. It's very natural to them how to do their own effects or they really have a technical skill. And now they're doing things. And now that's what is becoming more common. Like, not only has it become vastly democratized, but now you have people who are technically pretty proficient.
Yeah, I mean, even a lot of the like YouTube stuff where it's just people talking to the camera about what they bought at the store today. They'll even have like a nice
Green
little light setup going
on.
or they're like they have a little 3 light setup,
right.
And I'm like, it's just some 15-year-old girl in her in her room in some suburban house, but she's got it like figured out the lighting.
Yeah, she's got like the black magic shooting it and stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, whatever. That's not, anyway. Back to Vimeo.
Yeah.
I really like what it could be, and there's some really great stuff on there. But I've also seen in the past year or two almost like a slope downward in terms of just what's being made. There's still a bunch of stuff being made, but it's I feel like there's something lost.
How so?
Or there's something losing. I think with the democratization of everything, there's also been like a homogenization of
ideas,
yeah. And of not only ideas but also the way people are making pictures.
Do you think everybody's basically thinking the same thing? Or
I think they're all looking at each other's stuff and thinking that that's how you're supposed to do it.
Okay.
Because everything has become so, referential,
right?
That I think everyone's just looking at, this whole idea of like the trendsetters.
So there's one actual style.
Yes,
more or less.
I've definitely noticed one overall style dominating not only the indie content on Vimeo, but a lot of the music video and commercial content being made today on, most of the low and mid-range level.
Let me
the
ask
high
you
range,
this.
the big spots commercials still have that. They still have those prestige directors.
Yeah.
But everyone younger
Is doing the same thing.
is kind of doing the same thing.
Is part of that the whole kind of like Terrence Malick imitation with like the whole kind of the sun, the golden hour, the spinning around kind of stuff?
Definitely
like the old
a lot of that
commercial looking thing.
But when that stuff's done well, it's always gorgeous. So
Yeah.
it's always nice to look at. But even more than that, and I think this style is, the Malick thing is definitely partially influenced this style, but there's this tendency now to essentially shoot everything in a roving, like, mid-range shot. Where the thing I don't see happening anymore, and this is true for even a lot of movies, is I don't see any actual directing going on.
What do you mean by that?
Maybe people are working with the actors. I haven't even seen. I think that's still going on. Their performances are still being tailored, but in terms of the photography, there's this one prevailing style which is now dominating, which is this sort of flat kind of roving camera, which doesn't have any personality or identity, and I don't see any choices being made in the shot selection, in the way the sequence is going to play.
There's no voice.
There's no voice. There's no
nothing being said.
There's no style. There's no identity. There's nothing there really. It's just kind of
what
empty.
I was talking about earlier is not having really much of a story, just like doing something.
That's another
flashy.
problem.
That's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
But, so can you hold this thought right now where you want to go with this?
I'll try.
Okay, because
Okay.
I want to ask you, what do you think? Because one of the things I really appreciate is you're the only guy. We have so many crazy and this it's not even weed fueled. It's actually, although
Sometimes it is.
maybe,
Yeah.
but but we talk. I mean, I can talk with you about so many crazy things that we just have the best, and that's why I had to have you on the show. But one of the things we've talked about,
I don't even have any reason to be here.
One of the things we talked about is this idea of this sort of culture of likes, of getting likes, of being and I've talked about how I feel like every generation has had their sort of statement or
there's always been a counterculture.
Of a rebellion.
There
of
is
some
no
kind,
more
a
counterculture.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe now with the way things are.
And this is going to show my age, but there was like in Generation X, if you want to give them labels or whatever. Like,
right.
But you had the whole kind of Kurt Cobain thing or something.
Right.
So sort of this revival of kind of a punk.
Yeah, I mean, punk,
kind
grunge,
of a thing. Punk was
metal.
earlier.
I mean, all of the music scenes.
Yeah,
they were
so
always
the 70s and 80s was punk.
Those are all
the
countercultures.
90s you had the whole grungy thing or whatever.
Right.
60s you had
mods,
everything. I mean, drugs or Woodstock, whatever.
Yeah.
But so this one, you have duck face peace sign selfie. Let's get as many likes as we can. So
it's because the nature of social media. It's a popularity contest, and it's the aim is to get as many likes as possible.
And to be the same though. That's the part.
Well, you end up being the same.
That disturbs me is there's nobody. Who's going to rise up and be the next like voice in music? Is it Bieber? I mean, it's like
I think Bieber's already done.
Okay, but
from what I hear, he's run his course.
And it's the same with movies. I mean, there might be some exceptions, but it's like it's more of a idolization of conformity.
Yeah.
Then
there's no more counterculture.
Which scares the shit
right
out
now.
of me.
Really.
Actually, it freaks me out. And tell me about what you think about that. And do you think that this Vimeo thing and this lack of direction is related to that?
I think I think everything's connected at a certain point. Let's go take it one at a time.
Okay.
So
talking about lack of directing, lack of vision and
right. Well, it's just to go to the music counterculture thing first.
Okay.
And the likes. The thing I see going on with the social media stuff is that by design it's about getting likes and your friend count, and it's a point system now, right? And to get the most points, you need the most likes, which means you need to attract the most amount of people, which means being non-offensive to the most amount of people
very
possible.
middle of the road.
Straight up the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, mediocrity is king. That's right. So if everyone's aiming to be mediocre and to become popular, then we're done, right? There's nothing new being made, because to make something new and different means to be new and different, and generally
rejected.
Yeah,
instead of like, that's not cool anymore.
I mean, punk, hip hop, all of it comes from a counterculture roots.
Absolutely.
And all of it has been co-opted and is now, you can buy all of it. Yeah. It's all sold right back to you.
Eventually, yeah.
So
every one of them has.
They've they co-opted every aesthetic and sound, and now you can go to Hot Topic, in the mall. You can go to the mall and you can pick your identity. And then within that identity, if you wear the right costume and you do the right things, you get the most likes. And I guess people feel validated by that, because they have that little point thing on their phone that says, I got this many points today, and that means this many people like me.
It even comes down to like language and how you say things. Like, for example, like when people write in a sentence like that period, really period.
Oh yeah,
period,
all the
bad,
punctuation
or something like that. I mean, it's just like, oh, okay, I saw someone do that, so no, I'm gonna do it, and that's instead of. It not only disgusts me, it really kind of freaks me out. Like, it makes me feel like
I'm very concerned about
there's a tidal wave of clones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway,
not to sound like an old negative.
I know, get off my lawn.
Whatever. Yeah. But I'm totally that guy.
Yeah.
And I'm a very old young guy.
But it. So I'm suggesting that maybe that has led to what you're talking about with Vimeo. And I don't know if
I think it's all connected. I mean, again, you have this sort of trendsetter thing where there's the tastemaker. I mean, they have all the people that get the most likes get awarded the title of being able to essentially become the new commercials.
Right.
So you get 1 million likes, and then companies will come and pay you to show your products off.
Right.
You use your feed. I mean, your follower feed is like a new commodity.
Yeah. It's a form of stardom.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, as horrible as all this shit is, it's also kind of cool, because we're sort of entering the real life version of cyberpunk.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look that cool. It doesn't look like Blade Runner, right? It doesn't look like what we thought it was.
So
all
it's
the cool movies.
The worst of both worlds.
Yeah. It looks
we
like
don't get the cool slick look, and we get the worst part of it.
But we get all the problems. But yeah, I mean, increasingly I've been noticing that we're like entering this sort of new age.
This cyber. What have you noticed? Like, what do you mean by that?
Like, on the train or anywhere you go, they're like it's, on the surface you have the militarization of the police. You have surveillance everywhere. You have, emerging AI. You have self-driving cars.
You're right. This all ties into that.
In the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to, all the movies that we've been watching for the past 50 years, from,
Blade Runner,
2001 to Children of Men to, Blade Runner to a certain extent. Look at China. China looks like Blade Runner when it's all smoggy. Minority Report. I mean, essentially,
with the
I feel like Minority Report was probably that nailed the
marketing
the closest.
Yeah, that's really happening.
The ads that when you walk by or read your face, and
we have this cashmere sweater at the Gap that you might like.
I guess the only difference is that they didn't really perceive AR, the augmented reality, before. They thought those ads everyone would be able to see, but those ads are going to be projected on the inside of your eyes by a little disc.
But that sounds kind of cool. We were talking about
I don't
everything.
know. I mean, I don't want any of that shit in my
It's not that I
face.
want it, but
Yeah.
you're talking about everything being cyberpunk, but not really without the
It's not as cool.
visible
Right,
aspect of
right.
it.
But we have all the stuff that
is leading in that direction.
Is emerging. It's coming now. It's starting.
So, do you?
I mean, even the celebrity culture, like the Kardashians and all these types of people. I mean, these are almost, these are science fiction characters at a certain point.
Or you can look at our current president.
Yeah, that's just about as cyberpunk as it gets.
It's
Like a celebrity media mogul,
right? Yeah.
Like tyrannical overlord, who's just like a egotistical little boy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy to look at it like that. It really is.
Sucks that it's reality, but it's also like the coolest movie, or like of like a dystopian. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, we all get to live our own dystopic fantasy now.
Yeah, if you can just kind of lift the veil and really look at it.
Yeah.
And see the obeys everywhere.
Yeah.
So, do you in what you're doing in writing, is this a topic that you want to sort of tackle directly or indirectly?
Yeah. As I've gotten a little older and wiser and hopefully and read more books and seen a little more of the world, my interests have definitely evolved, matured, where the balls to the wall action movie I wanted to make as a kid is I as much as I love that stuff, I want to move a little deeper than that or farther along. So,
do you want to try to make something that some people will kind of help sort of lift this veil for some people a little bit without being pretentious? I mean, you're making a movie,
right? I mean, my original inspiration has always been the 70s horror. So, Dawn of the Dead, Cronenberg, Romero, all those Carpenter, all those movies were awesome, fun genre movies. But they also were all about something. They all were socially relevant.
You're talking about like They Live.
They Live. I mean,
do you think that could get made today?
Well, I know that. I mean, yeah. Well, they can try, and they are, because are
they redoing it?
I have a buddy in the system who's trying to
remake
the short story that it's based on, and I do what I can to stop him, to impede his progress on that. Because they can remake the short story and redo the movie, but it won't be that movie.
Yeah.
And they won't make that statement, and they won't say
I wouldn't
any of
think
those
so.
things.
I wouldn't think so. It's kind of remarkable that it was made at all.
Yeah. I mean, well, when it came out, it was like #1 for 2 weeks, and then it just mysteriously got pulled after 2 weeks.
I've heard that. Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah, and then it wasn't even on VHS.
I saw that in the theater
years.
when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I think I was a teenager, maybe.
It was not an easy movie to find for a long time.
Interesting.
I caught it on cable as a kid repeatedly, but that's what I grew up on, and so I've always I love genre, action, science fiction, horror, but I have more and more I have problems with when any movie or any story is told without any meaning or purpose, or
right.
When something is empty, it's just it's a lie.
Well, that's why I'm bored with Vimeo, for the most part.
Right. Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, I'll still defend Vimeo. But yeah, it's not as the flow of good stuff is definitely.
When I say that, look, it's not like I'd rather watch YouTube or something. All the best stuff is on Vimeo, and there's amazing shit on Vimeo. There truly is. I'm just saying, I'm talking about specifically this eye candy thing that we're talking about. I have no beef with Vimeo. I love it. I think it's amazing. I love it. But you know what I mean? This thing that we're talking about. This whole, I guess what I'm saying is not Vimeo. I'm saying this. I'm talking about the movement.
I would say the medium of visual storytelling. Is in danger, and that's in. Everyone wants to keep going on and on about this golden age of television, and I don't think it's. I mean, 9 out of 10 shows look and sound exactly the same. There's nothing. Like, everyone has accepted that movies and TV shows look a certain way, that the shots, it's always the same coverage, it's always the same shots, it's always the same lighting, it's always the same costumes, it's always the same aesthetic.
Right.
And it's the same storytelling tempo, it's the same storytelling devices, it's the same storytelling, it's people have just accepted that that's the way it is when it can be anything.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a few movies every year that are fantastic.
Yeah.
But I, by and large, am pretty underwhelmed or disappointed by almost everything these days. And I, again, don't want to be the old get off my lawn guy, but at the end of, but stuff isn't very good these days. Music most of all, but movies are definitely hurting. Comics, same.
Even then,
I think everything is under threat at this point.
What's the solution? Is there one?
No, it's hopeless. You fight the good fight and then you die, and that's it.
But every once in a while, something does get through, though. Something, and it's always been that way.
Right.
It's always been
movies.
That
There's
way.
For the most part, most movies have always sucked. Even in the 70s, even in the 60s, when all the great stuff was being made, still so much crap.
Right.
It's always been that way. So to think that things have gotten worse is not necessarily true.
But there's always been those diamonds in the rough. And those things where where you can. And I actually just talked about this with somebody recently, and I don't remember who it was on one of these episodes, but like Stanley Kubrick was a really good example of someone who, and it's not like he's makes or made big movie, but they were successful.
They were huge.
Yeah,
they were some of them.
Yeah, they were largely successful, and
all
really
medium,
dense.
Yeah, but all in that medium
really
range
dense
that they don't make anymore.
But also in a way that would be, when I say that, like Full Metal Jacket, for example, and we don't have to talk about that movie specifically, but every one of his movies had a shit ton of symbolism, had a lot of meaning, and that was a movie that's like, oh, that's a Vietnam movie, and it was in the malls, and people,
right.
And
but
people
even
still
that
look
movie
at it. Oh, it's a badass war movie.
But it was also incredibly experimental in its
That's
storytelling.
my point. That's my point. Every single one that he did,
they were all different too.
Every
one of his movies
managed to
is unique.
Do something with it. And this is just one example to pull out of a hat.
Right.
But, so there's a way to kind of sneak it in, and it's not about a message necessarily, but it's just saying something.
No, it's just
saying
about
something. It's communicating.
Right. At the end, it's if it doesn't have any meaning or purpose, whether that's a message or just sincerity, then it's just propaganda.
That's big to say that. What could it be?
Well, I don't want to.
Are you afraid to talk about it? Now we're getting into stoner talk.
All right. But it is at the end of the day, because it's a depiction of reality that's not real. That's there as escapism from the real world.
Some escapism is, if you know that's what it is okay.
Sure, of course. Right? And that's what movies are. They are escapist, but to make things with the intent of distracting your...
That's the word.
Right.
Distraction,
yeah.
Yeah, not escapism.
Well, it's... Right. It's a certain amount of...
sedation and distraction.
Yeah, complacency.
Right.
Everyone just gets lulled into their... hashtag Netflix and chill.
Yep.
Just sit there in front of your screen and don't go outside and don't live your life.
Yeah. Don't read.
Don't read. Definitely don't learn anything.
Don't think.
No. I definitely don't question anything. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
Not entirely. When you say don't question anything, it's like don't be like everybody else. Be like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or get smashed down.
Right. They've made
banished.
They've made being different or having an opinion that's not what everyone else is thinking or saying. At least the people either in your physical bubble or in your tech bubble.
Your social one. Yeah.
But to be different is now a negative.
That freaks me out.
Yeah.
That freaks me, and especially that happening in this country, which.
Right, the land of individualism,
one of the
and truth and liberty.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah,
it's definitely happening.
And that has That's been happening for a long time, though. That's not just starting. That's not like because of Trump. You know, this has been going on for a long time.
So, you are writing something that's sort of addressing this a little bit, or you want to do something like that? What's next for you?
I mean, more and more of my stuff is incorporating these ideas or questions or themes.
Including the short you're doing, or another feature, or a comic, or you want to talk about anything?
I mean, honestly, everything I'm working on is exploring this kind of stuff. You know, in the guise of action and fun and things blowing up. You know,
like we talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't know why those two things have to be separate. You know, why you can't make something that's fun and cool and also as there's a reason to be watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's important to me, and that's what kind of drives me to keep going. After all these years of being on the edge of success,
right on that bubble, yeah.
It's like I've had some success, but I haven't been successful fully.
Yeah.
You know, but I've been walking this tightrope, waiting to fall one way or the other. But
you're ready with a lot of material, and it is going to happen. And how would someone who this stuff that we're talking about, if this clicks with someone and they think that this shit is cool too, or something, or they see that there's some truth in it, and they want to kind of keep track of you and see what you're up to, and and see what you're writing or see what you're going to do, because you're making stuff. You're not just sitting and waiting. You can't
wait. You can't wait because no one. It's not gonna just happen. You gotta be you got to be so proactive and aggressive.
And you're doing a film next month that you don't even know how it's fully funded yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any money, but I'm going to make this movie.
That's how it gets done, though. That's how it gets. So you're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So if someone that thinks this kind of shit is cool or up their alley, how do they follow you? How do they keep track
on the internet?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
I guess that. Well, you're not going to give your phone number out, right?
No. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I should. I mean, you can.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, I have a website. Just
www. All your comics and all that.
Yeah, www.danielfreedman.tv. Freedman.
Okay.
That's kind of got a good overall overlook at the stuff that I've sort of.
Will you put your film stuff up there as it comes, or is it just
as it comes? Yeah, I mean, the stuff on there is all the stuff that's been completed and out for a little while. So I'm dying to get the newer things on there once they're done. But yeah, you can sort of follow my stuff on there, and then also
DanielFreedman.tv.
DanielFreedman.tv, and then I'm on Instagram. My name is not Daniel Freedman on Instagram.
Is that your artsy fartsy one?
Yeah, the artsy fartsy one. Yeah. Which again,
I'll put a link up for that.
I have a whole thing about that. I'm trying to, being the contrarian that I am, I'm attempting to use Instagram in the opposite way that other people do.
It's a judo move.
Yeah, which necessarily doesn't mean it's successful. Not like I have a bunch of followers
but
or
you
anything.
Do it.
But I'm trying to use the platform in a different way. So if most people use it to take selfies and talk about what they're doing in their life, I try to do the opposite of that. So
okay.
So I got that, and then
so if you go to
on Vimeo, and then you can find my stuff on Vimeo too. So
I'll put all the links in it's triumphanddisasterblog.com. Look for Daniel Freedman, and I'll put all that shit up there on Vimeo, ironically.
Yeah, and then once some of this stuff is up and running and out, it'd be nice to come back. Absolutely,
yeah. Especially once Undying Love finally gets made. Too.
Yes, hopefully that
it definitely will. And I think and Matthew Wilder, who has been on the show twice,
right?
And once he was on with one of the dual episodes, he was on with Kevin Schulman. And so he's a huge cinephile, as you know, and so are you. So he wants to talk movies. Like, he wants to talk about what makes movies good, why are they bad. We're going to get more into this shit. So we'll do that. So we'll look out for that too soon.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or I didn't ask about this time? We're going to do another one with him, so we'll have a chance.
Whatever you got, man. I gotta.
No. We'll do it again. We'll do it again. But this is the kind of shit that we talk about alone and personally that I think that other people might want to listen in on. I mean, I would have.
Yeah, I just hope I didn't say anything that's gonna haunt me.
Yeah, you just don't take any private planes.
Right.
Nah, it was good. It was good. So that's it.
Sounds good.
We'll see you with Wilder. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
So that was Daniel Freedman, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed that talk. He's actually going to be in another show with one of our past guests, Matthew Wilder, who's the screenwriter of Dog Eat Dog. And so we're going to have those guys together, and I already recorded it, and it's amazing. It's just for movie lovers, though. It's totally for cinephiles. So it's an amazing talk about movies, what makes movies good, and just what makes them bad, and just kind of pinpoints everything and picks everything apart, and it's just a really cool conversation. So look forward to that. If you like this one, and like any others, if you could leave a rating and review on iTunes, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll be more than happy to call you out in the show. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.